Hello everyone, my name is Jason, here to talk about Pathbuilder2e and building your first character. I'm going to be going over specifics for the Mistbound campaign that I am currently running, but this will also be useful for just building any Pathfinder2e character. So we'll start over here, using the web builder, we'll start a new character. In this campaign we're using legacy spells, and we'll update the spells for caster bonus spells. So the first choice is going to be what class you choose. And so for me, I've already decided I'm going to be a witch, and then going over every class here is beyond the scope of this video, but it all breaks down to choosing a martial, which uses weapons or fists to attack enemies, a spellcaster, which uses spells, and then there's some that are neither or both. The kineticist is neither of those things, and the magus is both. I'm choosing a witch because I want to show off building a character with every feature that includes spellcasting and familiar. So the witch has a baked-in familiar, and so the second choice is picking a subclass. For that, for the witch, that's a patron, and so I'm going to go with the resentment. Any of these choices would be fine, unless they say rare. If they say rare in the subclass, that means that they weren't remastered, and so witch was one of the 8 classes remastered recently, and so I would say avoid these unless you are really set on playing them, in which case you can do it, but your mileage may vary. I'm going to choose the resentment because I know it's what I want to play. And then this is the other part of the subclass where you just choose a hex, phase familiar, or patron's puppet. I'm going to go with the patron's puppet. So this dictates to me what it is I want to be aiming for with my stats. So strength, constitution, wisdom, dexterity, intelligence, and charisma. Those are the 6 stats, and for witch, you can see their key ability is intelligence. That means their intelligence is what scales the accuracy of their spell attacks, as well as the difficulty to beat their rolls with spells. So if I'm using a spell like Daze, I'm going to force the enemy to roll against my spell DC, and the higher my spell DC is, the harder it is for them to beat it. So that's where we are with that. So I want to maximize my intelligence. The most you can get is +4. The most you can get for your non-key ability is +3. So the other choice is, which other stat do I want to have the most in? So that's going to be dexterity, constitution, or wisdom are my choices. I'm going to choose dexterity. Dexterity increases my armor class, makes it harder to hit me, and increases my reflex save. So both of those are really helpful. So that's what I'm going to aim for with my choices. Next is going to be picking an ancestry. So we're going to go... I already know I'm going to pick a rat folk, but I want to get through what is probably the most important thing about choosing an ancestry, because you can choose to ignore these ability boosts and flaws. For instance, if I'm going to choose a rat folk, which gets a boost to dexterity and intelligence, and then a free boost. Every ancestry will get a free boost, but it takes a flaw in strength, which for a witch is not an issue. I don't care about strength. So if I'm doing that, I can choose one more free ability boost. In this case, I'd pick Constitution, along with Dexterity, Intelligence, and Strength. However, if you just like a certain ancestry, but it doesn't have the right stats for you, you can just ignore it and pick 2 free boosts. In this case, I'd pick Intelligence and Dexterity. So, if you like an ancestry for the flavor, or maybe it has a feat that you really like, you can ignore the boosts and just choose 2 of your own. However, if you want to maximize your boosts in the most mathematically favorable way, then you would want to choose something that has a flaw in a stat you don't care about and 2 boosts in stats you do care about. In my case, that would be a rat folk, which I'm speccing into dexterity and intelligence, so this is a perfect choice for me. However, I could also choose a hobgoblin, which takes a boost in constitution and intelligence, and takes a flaw in wisdom. I would prefer to have a flaw in strength than wisdom, so for me, I'm going to choose the rat folk in this case. But you could just pick a human, and they have plenty of benefits to them as well. Any of these ancestry choices is a-okay. You're not going to go terribly wrong with anything you choose here. Next is going to be picking a background. So for the background, it basically consists of an ability boost, a skill, a lore skill, and then a skill feat. So Barkeep is the default that you'll always start with, which has a choice between Constitution or Charisma, and then a free boost. Every choice here will have a free boost along with one of 2 choices here. And then you're trained in a skill, Diplomacy, and you gain the Alcohol lore skill. Don't worry too much about your lore skills. They're not vital to the campaign Mistbound. Though if you are playing a different campaign, then you might really care about a specific lore skill that matches the flavor you're going for. And then a skill feat, Hobnobber in this case. This is for Diplomacy. So I'm going to choose something. I can go up here and filter. I can look at different feats. For instance, if I want to look for Battle Medicine, I can look at these 2, Constitution or Wisdom, and then Constitution or Intelligence. This would give me a Battle Medicine feat. And in this case, I would not really choose something like Tech Reliant, which makes it so that magical healing has no effect on you. Not a good idea if you ever want to play with someone that heals. If I wanted to be the field medic, though, I could choose Constitution as my bonus, and then I could choose Intelligence with the other free boost. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go for something with Intelligence in my case. I'm going to go with the Hermit. I like the Dubious Knowledge skill feat. It's a cool one to have. And then it has either Con or Intelligence, so I'll choose Intelligence and then Dexterity for my free boost. Trained in Nature is fine with me, and then Occultism, or Trained in Nature or Occultism. I chose Occultism. Because I chose Occultism and I already have Occultism trained from the Resentment, it will give me a free boost, or a free skill choice, and you'll see it down here to the left. And then a lore skill. So I'm going to go with that, and there's my extra from choosing the Hermit. Now we're going to choose a Heritage. So the common ones will either be, these are shared at Ayu Varen, which is a half-elf, or a Dromar, which is a half-orc. These are shared between all ancestries, but then these are the ones that are unique to the rat folk. So then you have uncommon, which are also shared between all ancestries, and rare, again shared between all ancestries. If you're playing in Mistbound, you can go ahead and use any of these if you want, but some of them might be not so good for you. Like Dampier gives you the negative healing ability, which means if you are healed by a healing spell, you will take damage, and if you are if you take like a harm spell, for instance, which does void damage or void healing, it will heal you instead. So it's one where you don't necessarily want to choose something like this unless you know exactly what you're getting into. For me, I'm going to choose the Deep Rat. They have Dark Vision, and Dark Vision is, when it's useful, it's very, very good. So I would like that. And then for the ancestry feat, these are based on the heritage and ancestry you chose. I am interested in playing something like Tinkering Fingers, because I'm going to be good at crafting, so I wouldn't have to buy a repair kit to make repairs out in the field. So I'm going to go with that, Tinkering Fingers. And you see it causes you to be trained in crafting. So because I did that, I gain a skill choice here. So now we're going to choose our abilities now that we've said all that. Constitution plus dexterity and intelligence is what I'm going for here. Intelligence for my background boost, and then dexterity. And then Constitution, Intelligence, Dexterity, and Wisdom. So if you choose something that has a flaw, this is the highest you can get to in any stat. You can get a +4 in your primary stat, your key ability, a +3 in your second stat, and then a +2 in your other stat. Though if you choose standard ability selection, the highest you could get is a +1 let's fix that. You get a +1 in your third and fourth stats, and then +0 in your fifth and sixth stats. Because I'm doing this, I get a +2 in my third stat, and then I get a +1 in my fourth stat, and a -1 in my sixth stat, and a 0 in my fifth stat. So, yeah. And then we choose skills. So because I'm intelligence and I have +4 intelligence, I get a lot of skill choices. Each point of intelligence above 0 gives you a new skill to learn, and so I'm going to choose all the ones that are based on intelligence. Arcana, occultism is already learned, crafting is already learned from Tinkering Fingers, society. And then because I'm good at dexterity, I'm going to choose other dexterity-based boosts or skills to learn as well. So acrobatics, stealth, thievery. And then finally, we've got 2 more choices. I'm going to choose medicine and get trained in medicine. And then we'll go with religion, in case I need to know stuff about religion. And then we have 1 more. We'll go with nature. Nature seems useful to know things about. So, and that's most of the setup done. Now we just choose our gear and weapons. So if you are playing in the Mistbound campaign, you're going to start with 20 gold and not 15. But if you're playing in any normal campaign, 15 gold is what you start with at level 1. So for this, I'm going to be going with an adventurer's pack. That gives me a backpack and some standard items for adventuring. You don't necessarily need all this stuff. You could just drop the adventuring pack and just pick some stuff up individually. But I think it's safe to just get this stuff and call it good. It's not expensive, so you're not losing much by picking it up. And then I chose to be trained in medicine, so I'm going to look for a healer's toolkit as well. And that's going to be healer's toolkit. There we go. So I'll buy that for 5 gold. And now I can treat wounds out of combat. Okay. So I am trained in unarmored only. I'm not trained in light armor. That's untrained, the U. Medium armor or heavy armor. So I might make a different choice if I was trained in these, but because I'm not, I have to pick something that is unarmored. So in my case, I'm going to pick scroll robes. This will give me something to attach runes to later. In Mistbound, we're going to be using automatic rune progression, which basically means that at the level that is appropriate, you will receive the rune automatically and apply it to your gear. You'll need something for that rune to bind to, so you could just wait until level 5 to buy scroll robes, or you could just buy them at level 1, which I will be doing. And then real quick, the item bonus is how much armor you get from the item itself. And the dexterity cap is how much armor you can get the benefit of from your dexterity. So the cap is 5. I'm at 3, so I'm getting all 3 of those to my AC. So finally, we're choosing a weapon. Stabs are literally free, so that's what I'm going to go with. I don't technically need a staff at all, but it's thematic to have a staff for a caster, and so there's no problem with having it. It is free. And that's my gear. I still have 12 gold left over. I can choose to pick up some healing potions. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with what I have and leave the 12 gold on my person. Finally, we're here to spells. So spells are probably the most complicated part of choosing and building your class. There are a lot of choices. For a witch, the witch learns, let's see, the witch learns 10. Here we go. Your familiar starts off knowing 10 cantrips and 5 first rank spells. So that's what this icon next to the spells and cantrips is. It's your familiar, and if you click that, you'll see your familiar knows that spell now. So you just need to, you can pick 10 of these and 5 first rank spells. So these are cantrips, and so I'm going to start learning some of these. Daze is a save that you can cast, does damage, and has a chance to stun a target. Guidance, very useful, gives a status bonus to attack and checks, or saving throws. Infectious enthusiasm. I'm not going to learn that. Light is useful if you want to keep your hands free, but have a light in the darkness. Phase Bolt is very good. Strong damage spell that negates some of the bonus from circumstance bonuses. So if someone has taken cover or if they raise a shield, you can hit them more easily. Shield is good. Lets you raise a shield with one action and give you +1 to your AC for a turn. And then you can choose to block if you get hit by a spell or an attack. You can block some of that damage. Warp Step is pretty good. You learn Wash Your Luck. So don't worry too much about reading every single one of these. You just want to look for a few that are useful to you. So I've learned 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I need to learn 2 more. I'm going to learn Message and Detect Magic. That seems useful. Alright. And now I just need to choose 5. You can prepare 5 cantrips at a time. So I'm going to go with Eat Fire. It's a reaction to reduce fire damage taken. I find that to be pretty strong for a cantrip. We're going to go with Phase Bolt as a damaging choice, and then Daze as another damaging choice that is a save instead of an attack with a longer range. We'll go with Guidance for a 1-action ability, or 1-action cantrip that gives a +1 to my allies for their attacks and saves. And then Shield. Shield is also a good way to use your action. So I have a good mix of 2-action cantrips, 1-action cantrips. That's what these icons mean, by the way. Each of these diamonds is an action. So this costs a reaction. This costs 2 actions, 2 actions, 1 action, 1 action. And then now I pick 2 spells. So I can learn 5 first level spells with my familiar. So I'm going to learn Sure Strike. Let's go with Runic Weapon. Magic Missile was renamed to Force Barrage. We'll go with Force Barrage. Command and Color Spray. Enfeeble is one I get from my the Resentment subclass. So that one's learned for me automatically. Okay, so Witch is a prepared spellcaster, which means that if you want to use 2 of the same spell in a day, you need to prepare it twice. So for instance, if I want to use Color Spray twice, then I need to prepare it twice, so I have 2 uses of it. But if I just wanted to use it once, and then I wanted, like, Enfeeble, for instance, I would just prepare 1 of each. I'm going to go with 2 uses of Color Spray. This plays into my Focus spell and my my Familiar's ability. So that spell's taken care of. Now we move on to Familiar. So when you're building your Familiar, if you aren't a Witch, you'll have 2 selectable abilities, but Witches get 3. This can be a little daunting as well, but it basically breaks down to 2 categories: Familiar abilities and Master abilities. Master abilities being probably passive abilities or things that your Familiar can do to benefit you directly. So something like Familiar Focus. This will let you regenerate a focus point, which is what you use to cast your focus cantrips, which are found right here in your spells, focus spells. I have 1 focus point, and I can spend it on Evil Eye. So, or Patron's Puppet, either of these. So I can spend a focus point on either of these spells. This costs an action, this is a free action. Anyway, so I'm going to pick that one up, and then I can do something like Spell Delivery, where basically you are touching your Familiar and you cast a spell into it, a touch range spell, and then your Familiar will move twice and try to pass the spell to another creature, which can be useful if you're trying to do touch spells for damage, but I don't really have any of those, so I'm not going to worry about it. Instead, I'm going to go with Restorative Familiar, which is a heal. You spend 2 actions, with the Concentrate trait, and you heal. It's not terribly strong, but it's something, and so it could come in handy. There it is. And finally, we're gonna go with we'll go with Independent. Independent lets it act once per turn without you using an action to do so. So that's right here. So each turn it will still get 1 action even if you don't command it to do anything. You still decide how it spends that action. So yeah, that's a Familiar built, and it has Familiar Focus, Restorative Familiar, and Independent as its choices. So, and that's it. That's a complete character. So, Raddington the Third is complete. This thing is ready to export, and so I can share a copy of the character and send that on its way. So that's it. This took about 24 minutes from start to finish. Granted, I kind of know what I'm doing and what I was going for, so this may take you a bit longer. But don't be overwhelmed. Just take it piece by piece, and you'll get through to the end. I guarantee it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something. I'll see you next time. Bye.